Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day today. We've got some huge breaking news. You can see a little bit of a change of scenery here. We are up in Prescott, Arizona, looking for a new place to live here for the next little bit. And we are live streaming from the bottom floor. It's a little bit darker down here, but that's good. It's intimate because we want to talk about Jack Smith, the illegitimate deranged thug prosecutor who has now had both of his cases dismissed. Bye, Jack. You lose. Game over. And we're going to go through both of the filings. We've got two cases now that Jack Smith is just laying down on. The Florida classified documents case has now been withdrawn. Jack Smith was appealing that. He's now said that he is going to no longer be pursuing that appeal. And the January 6th case has been dismissed. He filed the motion to dismiss this afternoon, and Judge Chutkan just came out fresh out of the oven and issued the opinion that is dismissing the case. And so we're going to go through it all in detail. Let me give you a quick preview. Fresh out of the oven. 11:25. This is from Judge Chutkan. Donald Trump's January 6th case is dismissed. Grant the government motion to dismiss. A separate order will accompany this, but it's giant. So I am, of course, very happy that this has now happened. I'm also very angry that it ever got to this point. And I think that the people who are behind this entire operation are now cutting and running like little cowards because they lost the election. If Trump would have lost the election and they would have won, they would have been pursuing him in jail full steam ahead. But this is like 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. There's a drop of rain and the rain. Sorry, game's canceled because of the rain. It was unpredictable. Just like Trump winning the presidency was unpredictable. So we're going to talk about it. We've also got the actual formal motion. So this was a painful filing for Judge Chutkan to have to submit today. And we also will see that this is the government's motion to dismiss. Now, this was dismissed without prejudice, which means it still can come back later down the line, but I don't think that it will. I mean, it could, but there are two types of dismissals. We'll come back on that, but the government was asking for a motion to dismiss without prejudice, meaning they could file this again after Trump's presidency. And so we'll come back and talk about that. That is a risk, but we'll see if that happens. Of course, or what Trump's team responds with, because we'll read through the motion and see what their position was. But we also have another update out of the 11th Circuit. This was the classified documents appeal that Jack Smith was trying to ram through there. And he's now filing a motion to dismiss the appeal there as well. So just obliterated. Jack Smith failed 0 for 2. And he's going to try to say that these aren't losses like, oh, it's unprecedented. Trump became the president. My hands are tied. Nope, you lost. You came to prosecute him in 2 different locations and failed epically and may have been responsible for reelecting Trump. I mean, that's how bad they failed because people got to see just how weaponized the entire system was against him. And now they made their voices heard. So we're excited about that. Now, simultaneously, Damian Williams, the Manhattan federal prosecutor from the Southern District of New York, he is going to be exiting. He was the guy who we listened to, I think last week or the week before, who came out when Merrick Garland was there doing his little almost tearful departure speech there to all the people in New York. He was there saying, give him a big SDNY welcome. It was like, row, row, row. It was like a college party or something. Very interesting. So he'll be leaving, which is good news. Trump's already announced the person who will be coming in to replace him, which we're looking forward to. And then we've got some other clips and excerpts. We got this old one down memory lane of Merrick Garland saying that Jack Smith was a real boy. We know that he's not a real boy. We also saw this from Grabian, which was a flashback down memory lane from all these weird people saying Trump is going to go to prison any day now. The walls are closing in. He's going to be indicted and so on and so forth. And so we'll listen. Oh, remember that guy? So we'll listen to some of that until our brains can't take anymore. And then we'll go to some reaction from Jonathan Turley because he's got a take on this. And we are demanding more from our government. Jack Smith doesn't get to just file a motion to dismiss, have his cases go away, and he retires and runs off into the sunset. There were millions, tens of millions of dollars that were stolen from Americans in order to lead this sham prosecution from an illegitimate prosecutor. Jack Smith is a criminal and he should be investigated accordingly. And I hope he is. Now, the question is, will the new DOJ do that? We know Pam Bondi's going to be at the helm, but what about Todd Blanche? Is he going to be on Team Justice, or is he going to be on Team DOJ? We'll see. So here's an article from NBC. I think we know where Todd Blanche is going to stand, but NBC is coping and trying to make believe that Todd Blanche is going to be like an institutionalist or something. But we're asking about confirmation proceedings. We know that some Republicans are going to be squishy on confirming maybe RFK, maybe Marco Rubio, maybe Pam Bondi, maybe Tulsi Gabbard. We don't know. But Fetterman says he'll support some of Trump's nominees, and that's great. That's one Democrat who's going to come over. But one Republican who's terrible, clip courtesy of our friend Insurrection Barbie at Defiantly Free on X, shared this from Lankford. Remember this guy? One of the worst. The guy who tried to cram through the immigration bill that was a disaster so he could give the Democrats a talking point for the election that they did use ad nauseum. So we'll see what he said. And then there's a big scoop, man, from Axios. We keep hearing Kash Patel. His name keeps coming up and up and up and up. We know that he was originally coming up subordinate to Mike Rogers, who many people were very upset about, including yours truly, because Mike Rogers was that ex-FBI dude who was basically on the wrong side of every single issue that's important, like January 6th, like censorship, like COVID, and more. And Russia, all the things. So now we know it might be Kash Patel. All of that is good news. And so that's the big story of the day that we'll spend some time on. But then we'll jump in to some other updates because Elon Musk is coming to support Alex Jones. You may have seen this, but this is also fresh out of the oven. Elon's team filed a motion to object to the trustee who's transferring the assets from Alex Jones to whomever is getting them and saying, you can't do that. Those are not Alex Jones's assets. You can't give our X accounts that are our X's. They're not yours to give away from Alex Jones. And so this is curious because, as we know, the current government is trying to ransack people who are oppositional to free speech. And this is one of those conversations that is happening. So we'll see what that filing has for us. And then we'll do a quick update on the pandemic follow-up, because we're also not forgetting about this either, right? Pandemic, yeah, it's over, allegedly. We still have a lot of government grift continuing in the aftermath of that. But one question that we have is about the records. What actually happened? We want to get to the bottom of this and who was responsible for this. Becerra, Califf, Mandy Cohen. And so as the tides have turned in the Senate and the tides have turned in the House and the White House, well, now we're hopeful we're going to get some more answers. So this was a letter that came out from Senator Ron Johnson, who does great work on this. Lots of interesting emails in here and some redactions. And he's very upset. He says, look, in fact, what we've demanded from you and your response, he calls it appalling. The lack of transparency has been appalling, which we all know is true. And so we got a bunch of good stuff to get to, my friends. It's a beautiful week. Happy Monday. I hope your Thanksgiving plans are nice and in order, and you have tons of desserts planned in your future. We're grateful that you're here and with us today. As you know, before we get into any of the business on the day, let's talk about getting healthy. And it's Thanksgiving week. It's Black Friday week. So we got some awesome updates from our friends at the Wellness Company. And as you can see here, there's a Black Friday sale that is happening right now, which is very good because we're talking to dads and fathers and husbands and even guys like me. But we know that in times of emergency, we got to act quickly, right? Might be natural disasters, camping, whatever it is. We need to have personal urgent care at home so that when something happens, we're ready to go. Now, we've got this kit from the Wellness Company, IP67 military grade waterproof dust-proof kit. Looks just like that. And it's built tough, man. It's built to save lives. It's got a bunch of stuff in there. Antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, non-addictive pain relief in there. There's even a generic EpiPen inside. So a bunch of good stuff. Covers 60 conditions. The kit is on standby. It's ready. And the kit includes an 85-page medical guide that's written by the Wellness Company's medical board, giving you step-by-step guides on what to do for adventurers, survivalists, whatever you need. And so you can grab this field emergency kit today because when the unexpected happens, you want to be prepared and you want to survive. And this is a great gift coming up for the holidays for the man in your life. Order directly now. You can grab it from our friends at the Wellness Company, or you can check the link down in the description below. Go to twc.health/Robert, twc.health/Robert. Use code RumbleSale. The code is RumbleSale. You're going to get $200 off and free shipping. This is for USA residents only. Great pre-Black Friday sale, and it's a smoking deal. Everybody needs to be prepared in case bad things happen. So check out the link down below. Our friends from the Wellness Company. We thank them for sponsoring today's episode. All right. And so, my friends, now let's get into the business on the day, because we got this big story. And here it is. Donald Trump's cases now dismissed. Both of them gone. We're going to go through the latest updates, including this opinion from Judge Tanya Chutkan in the January 6th case, where she says this case is gone. We want to lay some foundation for this, though, and go through what Jack Smith submitted to the court, because he's got a little caveat in here saying he wants it to be dismissed without prejudice. And without prejudice means it could come back. And that means that when Trump is president, they could make an argument that the statute of limitations is being told because he's the president. You can't prosecute him at that time. And so maybe they could bring it back and the statute of limitations would not have expired and we can go through this whole thing over again. It could be a legal possibility. Is it a likely legal possibility? That's a whole separate issue, but we'll unpack it. But this is the government's motion to dismiss, but it's not just in Washington, D.C. and the D.C. Circuit. We're also going to go over to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals and then hear a bunch of reaction and some follow-up. What does this mean for Trump, the DOJ, the future of America? A lot of issues here. But this is the background. This is what the government submitted to Judge Chutkan. And this is fresh out of the oven. It's a Monday, Thanksgiving Day week, and we have a lot of people transitioning into holiday mode. Now, what is so clever about this motion is that Jack Smith is going to reframe this into not a loss. It's basically a disqualification, a technical DQ. He got elected president, so we didn't lose anything, but we just, because of this weird aberration of the way things work, we can't prosecute him. We'll see what he says. But here, regardless, I point that out because this is one of the most painful things that Jack Smith and his garbage prosecutors have ever had to do, and we're here for it. And it looks like Jack Smith himself signed the filing, which is good news. I was wondering if he was going to do that, or if he was going to be so cowardly that he can't even sign his own motion to dismiss. Now, this is tremendous news, right? Obviously, this case should be dismissed. That is the just disposition. But I am not happy at all about how long this took or why this had to happen now. If they would have won the election, this would not have happened, right? They would have continued to prosecute him and demanded incarceration for the president. And that is their end game. So now that it's dismissed, they're going to sort of roll over, show their bellies and say, oh, we only lost on a technicality, so be nice to us and we're dismissing things now. No, you dragged the country through years of unnecessary propaganda about what ultimately happened in these cases, both of which were fraudulent and false. You absconded with $50+ million of taxpayer money in order to prosecute that. The opportunity cost there for Trump to have to come out and defend that is probably $100 million of donor money and Trump money in order to defend that. Then you can tack on all the billions of dollars of damages in terms of media negativity that was inflicted upon Trump and America on the back of two ill-premised prosecutions that were politically motivated from the beginning. There need to be repercussions for that. And so while this is all well and good, and this is nice that he's dismissing this now, the game is not done. He is showing his belly, but there needs to be an investigation as to what criminality was created, what was bundled together in order to create these prosecutions at the outset. So here is the motion. He says, from Jack Smith writing, he wrote this himself maybe, as a result of the election held on November 5th, the defendant, president-elect defendant, you punk, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as president on January 20th, 2025. That's right. Now, it has long been the position of the Department of Justice that the United States Constitution forbids the federal indictment and subsequent criminal prosecution of a sitting president. And this is something, put a pin in that because we'll come back. I'm going to play this clip here in a second from all these weird people. saying that Mueller could indict Trump right away. Robert Mueller, remember, he was investigating the Russia collusion hoax right after 2016, saying that he could indict him like in 2018 and 2017 when Trump was the literal president. They were saying we can indict him, no problem. What? The president, who is like the root of the executive branch, can indict himself? Okay. So they said that, and now they're going to come out and say that actually they can't. Okay. So their precedent is kind of shifty on this a little bit. But the department and the country have never faced the circumstance here where a federal indictment against a private citizen has been returned by a grand jury and a criminal prosecution is already underway when the defendant, president-elect defendant, is elected president. Yeah, and do you know why this country has never faced this before, you maniac? Is because nobody's ever prosecuted a person like Trump before. A top-tier presidential candidate or an actual former president who everybody knew was going to run again. You put us in this position, so don't act like the country is a victim of circumstance. Wow. And this is also condescending, very condescending to the American people, just to be clear. Jack Smith is saying, I can't believe you morons did this. A country of fair citizens, a grand jury, they're prosecuting him, and the country elected him. Oh my gosh. So we've never seen this before because you did it. If a bunch of other prosecutors had prosecuted Obama and George Bush for his war crimes and no blood for oil, or prosecuted Obama for drone striking American citizens or spying on all of us and violating all of our liberties, or any of those other things, right? Go all the way back. Pick any president. Trump was the most egregious criminal because he gave a speech at the Capitol and there was a riot really in the course of American history for 4 hours. The Congress is not even his purview, by the way. The congressional security is Congress's responsibility, not the executive branches. And he was never responsible for that. Even despite that, he offered DOD assistance, which they verified for him what would be granted, and sent 10,000 people over there, rejected by the National Guard, by Mayor Muriel Bowser. And Stephen Sund is now reiterating the National Guard were within walking distance of the Capitol, but didn't go over there. So that was their fault, not President Trump's. And they then indicted him for that. Then a document scandal. They raided his home over a document scandal. They caused everything that's happening here. And Jack Smith might be, if you had to pin it on one person most responsible, maybe tactically or procedurally, for helping Trump to win the election, it's probably these prosecutions. I mean, Jack Smith has done more damage to not only the country, but the legitimacy of the Justice Department and the Democratic Party than anybody. I mean, think about how mad the liberals were when Joe Brzezinski on the Mika show, when he's there going to kiss the ring and be nice to Trump and come back and tell his audience that we are going to play nice now. This is Jack Smith, who was supposed to be their stone cold killer, who's going to stop at nothing, who's going to win all the time. How many times we see Andrew Weissman and George Conway and Mark Elias and all these guys retweeting, Jack Smith. It was crazy. He's failed epically. And now he's trying to get away with it, but we're not going to let him do it. So confronted with this unprecedented situation, you keep saying that, but it's not true. You created it. If other prosecutors had prosecuted other presidents like this, there'd be precedent for it because they would have won. But you did it. You broke 234 years of precedent. And then you call it unprecedented. Thanks. So the special counsel's office consulted with the Office of Legal Counsel. So now Jack Smith is going to go get an ethics opinion. You're not even a real prosecutor on this case, whose interpretation of constitutional questions, such as those raised here, is binding on us. So says Jack, after careful consideration, the department has determined that the Office of Legal Counsel's prior opinions concerning the Constitution's prohibition on federal indictment and prosecution of a sitting president apply to this situation. Give me a break. This is their fake because this case was already on life support. Now they're going to say that the Trump presidency is like the rain, right? You're in the middle of a game, rain comes out. Oh, game's over. No. This case was riddled with immunity material in it and free speech issues and all sorts of issues that haven't even been litigated yet. Not to mention Jack Smith's legitimacy. He was already deemed illegitimate in Florida. We were not even getting there yet. Okay, so this is like a safety escape hatch. He's like pulling the ejection cord. Like, gosh, now I don't have to deal with whether I'm a real boy or not. I can just continue to be dynamic. And that as a result of this prosecution, Jack Smith says this prosecution must be dismissed before Trump is inaugurated. Wow. That prohibition is categorical and does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, right? So Trump is still an insurrectionist, is what he's saying. The strength of the government's proof or the merits of the prosecution. Yes, it does. You're not even a real boy, Jack. Stop pretending. The merits of this prosecution are crap. You're using this as an excuse, which the government stands fully behind. No, you don't. But see, it's cope. This is why I get so irritated reading this. Like, no, you don't. You don't even believe this. That's why you're writing it. Based on the department's interpretation of the Constitution, which they've ransacked by appointing Jack Smith, the government moves for dismissal without prejudice. Okay, so that means that technically they could refile this in the future if Judge Chutkan grants it accordingly. Now, the government has conferred with defense counsel, who does not object to this motion, obviously. So the only caveat would be maybe they would object. They would want it to be dismissed with prejudice, right? Would be their basis for that. But they may not have a strong legal basis for that because the jury's not been impaneled and we haven't gotten that far in the case yet. Now, even though we have, clearly. So here's what they say. This is Jack Smith writing. All right, Rule 48 of the federal rules allows the government to dismiss an indictment with leave of the court, saying you may grant leave, and that's what we're doing here, telling us. On August 1st, 2023, and this is Jack Smith writing. And let me just pause. I know it's taken forever to get through this, but let me just pause on this point. August 1st, 2023, right? This is a federal level felony involving a very high profile person. It's absolutely reasonable to say that you'd have a trial right around the election. Okay. If it's August 1st in the month, maybe a year from now, 6 months from then, right? They were targeting like March, but as we know, there are continuances and they were calculating for that. So those continuances would have put them 1 year later, right in August, which is what they were trying for. August, even October, Chutkan was like, let's get it in October. But then everything got thrown off the rails. So from January 6, 2021 to 2023, August 1st, like 2.5 years. So Jack Smith waited 2.5 years to bring that indictment so that he could indict and time it perfectly so that he could get potentially a trial right at the last minute. Trump's attorneys brilliantly used the Coinbase case, which came out, I believe, in 2023, to talk about immunity. And they did. And it interrupted that whole timeline because then they had to take it up on appeal and it paused. It stayed under all the underlying level rulings. And so they got it past that point of no return. And also the immunity decision was very good as well. But my point is, Jack Smith waited to strategically file this indictment. Now, if he wanted to be a reasonable prosecutor who didn't create all sorts of unprecedented situations that he's then going to have to suffer through, evidently, he could have just waited another year and a couple months to November 2024 right now. He already waited 2.5 years. He could have waited another year and a couple months. And the statute of limitations on all those would have still been within the 5 years or 7 years or whatever they are for the individual charges, and it would have been fine. But he didn't do that for a reason, because he wanted to prosecute him to interfere with the election. They're charging Trump with election interference or, permutations of that, essentially, obstruction and so on, but conspiracy and more. But that's them. They did it. So they tell us on August 1st, a federal grand jury of citizens in the District of Columbia, which voted, I think 93%. Is that right? Was it 93%? Was it that high in DC? That's the number that's at the top of my mind. In the DC area for Kamala, found probable cause, which is insane, that they could, of course, they could indict, as you hear, a ham sandwich, to charge President-elect Trump with 4 felony offenses in connection with his efforts to interfere with Congress's certification. Now, after the Supreme Court held last summer in Trump versus United States, that's the immune case, the defendant, Trump, president-elect defendant, Jack, was immune from prosecution from certain abuses of official power alleged in the original indictment. So what did they do? A second grand jury returned a superseding indictment that charged the same offenses, but omitted conduct that was subject to immunity, right? So Jack Smith went back, crossed out a bunch of garbage that shouldn't have been in there in the first place, unprecedented again, and then did it again. And so Chutkan's like, well, based on that second draft, I'm going to allow you then to make your arguments and file those huge appendices, which is obviously out of order. And on September 27th, the government filed a motion explaining that the conduct charged in the second indictment was not immune and that the Trump case should proceed to trial. And I am seeing some confirmations of 92%. I think I saw Laura. Thank you, Laura. 92.5% for Kamala. Incredible. Now, the government's position on the merits of the defendant's prosecution has not changed. We still think he's an insurrectionist. And okay, that's what that is. It's probably Molly who put that line in there. But the circumstances have, as a result of the election held on November 5th, President-elect defendant will now be certified as President-elect on January 6, 2025. And inaugurated on the 20th. So this sets at odds two fundamental and compelling national interests. On the one hand, the Constitution's requirement that the president must not be unduly encumbered in fulfilling his weighty responsibilities, which we saw in the Nixon case, saying the president occupies a unique position in our power structure and is entrusted with supervisory and policy responsibilities of utmost discretion and sensitivity. And on the other hand, the nation's commitment to the rule of law, which Jack's going to get intimately familiar with here soon. And the longstanding principle that, quote, no man in this country is so high that he's above the law, including you, Jack. Now, given this unprecedented circumstance, the special counsel's office, again, it's not unprecedented. You created it, and you did it intentionally. So now you don't get to play dumb. Said, we consulted with the ethics boards all of a sudden, which by delegation of the AG provides controlling legal advice over us. And so now we're bound by the rules all of a sudden. The OLC has twice before addressed the amenability to federal prosecution of a sitting president. They've talked about it. They said in the first opinion, which was drafted during Watergate in 1973, that explored whether the impeachment judgment clause prohibits federal criminal prosecution of a sitting president before the exhaustion of the impeachment process, and if not, whether a sitting president is subject to criminal prosecution. Now, they concluded that the impeachment judgment clause did not preclude the prosecution of a sitting president, which I disagree with. And this was the point that Trump was making. So remember that the idea is that in order to pierce the presidential immunity, the president has immunity from certain things. The Supreme Court gave us those three buckets. And if the president is arguably violating one of those, violating the law, the idea would be that you prosecute him politically first. And then we can make sure that if there's a political consensus that the president did something bad. Okay, in other words, if you impeach them and remove them from office and convict them, then that requires, I believe it's 2/3 of the Senate, which means the person did something very bad. So once that happens, then that immunity over that contested issue, okay, the president takes an action, they say it was illegal, president says, no, it wasn't, I'm allowed to do those things. If you open it up so like 50 different prosecutors can charge the president for that thing, that's totally unmanageable. So the founders put a framework in there. They said it goes to the Congress. If Congress agrees that was clearly criminal, then they'll unify, they'll impeach, they'll convict, the president will be removed. Then that will pierce the veil, like in corporate protection, pierce the veil of the LLC. And then the president will be subject to criminal charges in the appropriate jurisdictions according to the law. Now, the OLC said, no, that's not right. But they said that a criminal prosecution of a sitting president would violate separation of powers and unduly interfere in a direct or formal sense with the conduct of the presidency, which is like, yeah, that's also true. But I think the stronger argument is in the founding documents. You just read it. In 2000, in the wake of the first presidential impeachment in more than a century, the Office of Legal Counsel issued a second opinion revisiting the question of whether a sitting president could be criminally charged as well. And again, concluded that charging and prosecuting a sitting president would impermissibly threaten the constitutional separation of powers because it would harm the president's ability to fulfill his roles. Now, the 2000 memo reason that doing so would risk imposing three burdens that would make it impossible for a president to do his constitutional duties. It would have a burden of imprisonment, which would physically prevent the president from doing his work. And so we can also apply these to the other cases, the Alvin Bragg case, which is still ongoing at the moment. That's on life support. And the Georgia case with Big Fanny. And that's also on life support because the Court of Appeals down there just vacated the oral arguments, which means they don't need to hear from anybody. So those cases are probably also going away. But if they were not going away, this would be a good argument as to why they should. 2, the burden of public stigma and opprobrium, which is scorn and derision, which they have weaponized and exploited intentionally for the last several years, which would weaken the president's ability to do his job and the mental and physical burdens associated with preparing a defense to a criminal prosecution, which was perfectly okay for them and for Jack. All of this was perfectly okay to layer on to Trump and the Republicans and MAGA and extreme and all of it. For years, this was all okay to do to their political opponent. But as soon as he won, oh, we can't do that anymore. Why? Because it's unfair. It does all of those things, which they were doing intentionally. Now they're cutting and running because it might severely hamper his performance of his official duties. So they concluded that because a pending criminal prosecution would also impair a president's ability to carry out his responsibilities to the harm of the nation. And this also harms the nation as well. When Trump is leading in the polls and becoming a primary candidate and beating out the opposition, lodging those things against him, who the people have selected, they voted for him. He didn't take that position. He didn't take the top of the polls. If people didn't want Trump to be there, they wouldn't have voted for him. They would have had Ron DeSantis in there. But they chose him. And the DOJ still acted to the detriment of the nation, and they did it intentionally, saying the constitutional interest in the president's unfettered performance of his duties must take precedence over the immediate enforcement of the law against the sitting president, saying the OLC memo, moreover, adopted a categorical rule against indictment or criminal prosecution of a president. Now, while recognizing that a particular charge might not impose all three burdens, the opinion said it's perilous to do it. So both the 1973 and 2000 memos recognized the critical national interest in upholding the rule of law, and they stated the president is not above it. Saying that the OLC memo and the brief that were filed in connection with the prosecution of former VP Spiro Agnew recognize the president is not above the law and that he's ultimately accountable for his misconduct, saying that the framers of the Constitution made it abundantly clear that the president was intended to be the chief executive. Yeah, he is subject to the law, but it's through he has due process of law, just like everybody else does. He doesn't get to. If you want to prosecute him, you have to impeach him and then remove him. That conviction is what breaches it. That's how you hold a president accountable. It's clear as day in the Constitution. Nobody was ever declaring that Trump was above the law, except you people, even though there's an argument that the president is above the law because of the pardon power. So it's such a dumb phrase. Okay, well, can the president pardon somebody who was convicted in America? Yeah. Can the president pardon himself? Maybe. So stop saying it. Now, OLC explained that because a sitting president's immunity is temporary, extending only so far as his term in office and the things he did while in office, it would not subvert the important interest in maintaining the rule of law. So we've previously considered the possibility, says the OLC, that the harms to the presidency might be ameliorated by returning or limited by returning an indictment against the sitting president, but holding the proceedings in abeyance until his term expires. But that would impact those other, he'd have to worry about it when he came out. They say We have thus separately reconsidered whether if the constitutional immunity extended only to prosecution, could he do his job? Not really, not with that hanging it over its head. Now, while the 1973 OLC opinion did not reach any conclusion on this question, in 2000, after balancing the competing interests that would arise from federal indictment brought against a sitting president, the OLC concluded, quote, a sitting president is immune from indictment as well as from further criminal process, and that the Constitution would thus prohibit an indictment even if all subsequent proceedings were postponed until after they left office. But the OLC recognized that the interest in avoiding a statute of limitations bar is a legitimate one, and it noted the possibility that they might equitably toll the statute of limitations so that he could be prosecuted once out of office, right? And that's why we're going to see this without prejudice thing become an issue. Neither the 1973 nor the 2000 OLC memo addressed directly a federal indictment that's already been returned against a private citizen before his election. Now, we argue that Trump is immune from the conduct alleged in the indictment because he was the president at the time that the allegations happened. So could they and he's saying that's not true because of some other conversations with Mike Pence and more people. Now, he says the special counsel's office, therefore, sought guidance on whether this case must be dismissed or whether we could suspend the indictment and just pause everything until he's no longer immune once he leaves office. Now, the OLC concluded that its 2000 opinion saying the categorical prohibition on the federal indictment of a sitting president, even if the case were held in abeyance, applies to this situation where a federal indictment was returned before the defendant takes office. And so accordingly, the department's position is that the Constitution requires this case to be dismissed before the defendant is inaugurated. And although the Constitution requires dismissal in this context, consistent with the temporary nature of the immunity afforded a sitting president, it does not require dismissal with prejudice, saying immunity from prosecution for a sitting president would not preclude such prosecution once the term is over or he is otherwise removed from office. So the outcome is not based on the merits or the strength of the case against the defendant. So for the foregoing reasons, we move for a dismissal without prejudice of the superseding indictment, saying, yeah, even if it was a sitting president. So this is curious. Let's see what Judge Chutkan says. So that's from Jack Smith. That's his pathetic signature. God, he looks like a slob even in his signature. Looks just like a slob everywhere he goes. And now he just looks like, even his signature is terrible. All right. So sloppy Jack Smith files a motion to dismiss. Let's see what Judge Chutkan says on that point about a potential refiling. Says, all right, the government, this is the big one. This is the dismissal opinion from the judge. The government has moved to dismiss the superseding indictment without prejudice. Trump does not oppose this, and the court will grant it. How'd that feel, Chutkan? Says that the rules provides that before trial, the government may, without leave of the court, dismiss an indictment. The principal object is a narrow one, which is to protect the defendant against harassment. Here, Trump consents to the dismissal, and there's no indication that the dismissal is part of a scheme of prosecutorial harassment or is otherwise improper, and so we'll do it. Rather, the government explains it seeks dismissal pursuant to policy and precedent, and so the court will therefore grant the government leave to dismiss the case. Saying, now dismissal without prejudice is appropriate here. When a prosecutor moves to dismiss an indictment without prejudice, there is a strong presumption in favor of that course. Now, a court may override the presumption only when dismissal without prejudice would result in the harassment of the defendant or would otherwise be contrary to manifest public interest. Now, as already noted, there is no indication of any prosecutorial harassment or other impropriety, and there's no basis for overriding the presumption. And Trump is not even asking the court to do so. Dismissal without prejudice is also consistent with the government's understanding that the immunity afforded to a sitting president is temporary, expiring when they leave office. See, so she's leaving the door open for a refile, just to be clear. She says the government thinks that the president's immunity will expire. And so if I dismiss it with prejudice, then that means that they would not be able to prosecute him again once he leaves office. So without prejudice means they can refile. And since immunity will be over, they can refile. So accordingly, the court will grant the government's motion to dismiss and dismiss the superseding indictment without prejudice. A separate order will accompany this opinion, signed by Judge Tanya Chutkan. And so, as I said at the outset, I'm happy that the cases are being dismissed, but these are cowards acting cowardly. And they have been running this game for years to try to interfere and rig an election. They cheated using the federal government to do it. And now, right at the finish line, they're going to just cut and run and say, oh, the rain came out. It's cloudy now because he won the presidency, which is the exact entire point of their scam operation, was to prevent that from happening. It happened. Now they're going to say, oops, policy and precedent. There's nothing we can do about this, and dismiss the case while leaving the door open for a future possibility of refiling down the line. There need to be serious investigations from Pam Bondi and from Todd Blanche into this to get to the bottom of what ultimately happened here, because I imagine that there are multiple layers of collusion between these people, and I cannot wait to see what is inside their emails. So this is another take from NBC News. Speaking of the DOJ, what is Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, who's going to be over there, what's he going to do about all this when he gets there? We'll come back on that. But this is the latest out of the Florida classified documents case. So the January 6th case is now dismissed. Not coming back for a while, but potentially could come back. Judge Chutkan, Jack Smith, they lose their cases and they lose their credibility and their legitimacy, in my opinion, for all time. But they've also lost in Florida. This is in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. This is the classified documents case. Jack Smith, while he was running and hiding in D.C., was doing the same thing here on this appeal, filing a motion to dismiss this appeal as well. Running scared. This is a very short filing. We'll hit it very quickly. You can see James Pierce submitted that one, the appellate lawyer. He says, well, as a result of the election held on November 5th, President-elect Donald Trump will be inaugurated as president on January 20th. And for the reasons set forth in another case, which is in the one we just read, where they moved to dismiss the prosecution, the United States also moves to dismiss the appeal in this case as to the defendant, saying dismissing the appeal as to President-elect defendant Trump will leave in place the district court's order dismissing the indictment without prejudice as to him. The appeal concerning the other two defendants will continue because, unlike President-elect defendant Trump, no principle of temporary immunity applies to them. So that's from James Pierce. These people are so bitter. You can see how upset he is. Oh, he has to dismiss Trump's case. He's like, that's okay. We're still going to take this forward against Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, who are the other two co-defendants in the case. James and these prosecutors are pathetic people. All right, you guys are such losers, man. Just give it up already. You're going to be fired anyways as soon as Trump comes in, and those cases against Walt and Carlos are going bye-bye anyways. Now, other people are also leaving out of the Southern District of New York. Damian Williams is a top federal prosecutor there, runs the SDNY. He's leaving. He's going to resign about a month before Trump takes office. Then we're going to have a deputy take over. And he has an unusual degree of independence from the DOJ. He brought high-profile cases. This is where Diddy is. SDNY was where Weinstein was where E. Jean Carroll was. It's a big district. Trump, a Republican, said he would nominate Jay Clayton to take over that office. SBF was there, so it's a big one. So big changes happening there We're here for it. Wanted to take us down a quick memory lane here just to honor this one. This is when Merrick Garland admitted Jack Smith is not a real boy.
Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden or confirmed by the U.S. Senate?
Look, you're asking me about a case, again, motions filed.
This is a simple question.
No, I'm not.
Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden?
No, he was not.
Was he confirmed by the Senate?
No, he was not.
When was the special counsel statute passed?
There is no special counsel statute. There was an independent counsel statute that was expired.
Yeah.
So it expired.
Thank you.
So what gives you the authority to appoint a special counsel? You've created an office in the U.S. government that does not exist without authorization from Congress.
And now Jack Smith has lost both of his cases. Maybe they should have hired a real prosecutor. But this is what these people said. Here's a quick trip down memory lane. Remember the insanity that was this?
58 House Democrats have recently voted to advance articles of impeachment.
Impeach him first and then indict him.
Yes, the president, a sitting president, can be indicted.
Even if the president were to somehow find some way to terminate Mueller, the indictments would continue to grind.
You could impeach anybody on anything. You can try and indict.
He is not functioning as the president of the United States. Frankly, if he ever gets indicted, he'll have insanity as a defense, I suppose, from a criminal charge. But it's hardly, this is a serious matter.
You're starting to hear people talk about the possibility that Donald Trump leaves office in 2 years and then finds himself in the crosshairs of these New York prosecutors.
This sitting president can and should be indicted.
President, there for sure is more than likely going to serve some jail time.
It's clear that Trump is the target and he'll be indicted eventually.
On the day Donald Trump leaves office, the Justice Department may indict him.
Now there is talk of jail time for the president.
That Mueller could indict the president for obstruction of justice.
Donald Trump should be indicted for calling a cooperating witness a rat.
He should have been indicted.
The sitting president can be indicted by the Justice Department.
Hey, you guys got to get new shows.
Target Trump having committed crimes to get the presidency. So why aren't we at an indictment yet?
I think there's generally consensus the president has probably committed indictable crimes.
It's very strongly.
Okay, so just imagine being a Democrat and hearing this for your whole life, basically. Birthed into this every day. Indictment, 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 indictment. Shifty Schiff, who's now going to be going to the Senate for years. And now Trump, again, he's not going to have any repercussions for his January 6th case or his classified documents case. They must be having a real hard time over there. Here was Jonathan Turley on with Fox News, an astute legal observer explaining the following.
Well, this is what we expected. I wrote over a year ago that there was a good chance Jack Smith would never see the inside of a courtroom for a trial in this case. It made this election the largest effective jury verdict in history by reelecting Donald Trump. The special counsel found himself at odds with his own department's longstanding policy against the prosecution of a sitting president. But Smith did not go quietly into that night. I expect that he did get a lot of different opinions, hoping for the right one. But the OLC, this office that handles such questions, has long taken this position. So it would be doubtful that they would change it here. But, Smith had a sort of a gratuitous end to his term. He pushed not only for a trial before the election, and he pushed for months for that, but he also released damaging information before the election.
Yeah, now he's going to cut and run.
People saw as an effort to influence the election.
Because it was.
Smith knew that if Trump won, he was out of a job. And this release of the information was entirely unnecessary. The judge admitted that it was procedurally irregular, but she went along with it.
Because she was in it too.
I think that did tarnish his position, and certainly in history, because he didn't have to do that. He had become so absolutely fixated on trying Trump before the election that he lost credibility, I think, with the courts. He went up to the Supreme Court. They didn't accept that was the overriding consideration in looking at these legal issues. I think it's also very important to remember that Smith's case was riddled with constitutional problems.
It was terrible. That's why this is all, this is his fake excuse. Yeah, he needs some reason to dump these cases, but this is the best one for him. It looks the best. He can't just say my case is terrible and Trump's going to fire me immediately and I'm in big trouble. So he's like, well, he won the election, so now I've got to call it.
Court reached its immunity decision. It was clear that he would have to pare down his indictment.
He did.
He
his
really
second draft.
didn't do it to the degree he needed to do. He took a very minimalist approach. He removed a few references, a few witnesses that stemmed from the first Trump presidency.
Yeah, he was going to lose the
But
second
he largely
indictment
just
too.
repackaged it. And some of us said that we thought that it was not enough, that if he ever did go to trial, he could be reversed just on that basis.
Yeah, and the second indictment also had immune conduct in it. So this case was on life support from the very beginning, and they were lying to the left about, and to America about this. Trump, remember 94 charges and 34 felonies and 127 this. And so, okay, what happened to those cases? Are you guys going to go back on your cable shows on MSNBC? Nobody's watching anymore, and correct the record on this and show that these were invalid charges and now they've been dismissed? No, they'll just say, right, oh, Trump got away with it again because he got elected. And Jack Smith is now dismissing it on a technicality. No, that's not, yeah, that's true. They're being dismissed on a technicality, but the underlying premise that brought the charges in the first place is what needs to be corrected on their end. And I hope that we get to the bottom of it. Now, the Oversight Project, I love this. They're from the Heritage Foundation. They said, now this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Says Jack Smith and his team must be held accountable for their unprecedented lawfare. Says we are preparing a model indictment. Jack Smith, his reign from November 22nd to November 2024, November 2022 to November 2024, gone, but not forgotten. That's exactly right. Now, the person who's going into the DOJ, Pam Bondi, is going to be joined by Todd Blanche. You remember them standing outside the courtroom in New York, which we covered at length. And Todd Blanche was very amazing in that trial. They had a good success there. And Todd has been very forthcoming with his filings and made it easy to follow the cases. And we appreciate that. Thank you, Todd. So here is this story by Ryan Riley. It says, when Matt Gaetz abruptly withdrew, then we knew there was going to be a change. Then we got Pam Bondi hours later. And now people are hopeful that Todd Blanche will bring some order and protect career civil servants from Trump's wrath. If confirmed as the deputy AG by the Senate, which is widely expected, they say, he will then, like all DOJ officials, take an oath to support, defend the Constitution, be required to adhere to the policies. People close to Blanche say his past work as a career prosecutor in the SDNY gives him an understanding of the department. Might make things easier on the people who are lifers there. Many current DOJ officials hope that Blanche, who will oversee day-to-day operations, can help prevent a worst-case scenario. Trump wielding federal law enforcement as a cudgel against his political enemies. Give me a break. They've been doing that for years. Todd Blanche knows it better than anybody. So Todd Blanche is going to go in there and show them, or actually know where the bodies are buried, because he's been fighting them for years now. So that's exciting. Now, John Fetterman has come out and says that he's going to be supporting some of President Trump's nominations, which is an interesting one because that's a +1 in the Democratic column, which the Republicans could use thanks to Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. Fetterman said that he would support some of his Republican colleagues being nominated for various positions. Says, I don't even know why that's controversial. During an appearance on Fox News Sunday, he said he would support some. He also clarified while he never committed to supporting Oz after Trump picked him, he doesn't hold any bitterness. He beat him in the Senate. I'm open to dialogue. Hear what he has to say about these things. I'm not sure why that's controversial, said Fetterman. I'm going to have an open conversation with anyone, and I'm open to having part of that conversation now. So, all right, that's good there. Meanwhile, we got dumb Republicans like Lankford, who is from Oklahoma, clipped over here from us from Insurrection Barbie on X, a great follow, says that all of Trump's picks are going to be hammered by him and others in the Senate.
Nominees. Are you planning to vote for all of them, or do any give you pause?
No, we're planning to go through the process on this. By the way, good morning and happy Thanksgiving coming up. But there'll be a long process that'll go through that has already begun, where individuals that have been nominated will come forward. We'll sit down with them in our offices. We'll get a chance to be able to talk. There'll be open hearings that'll start after January the 3rd next year when the new Congress is sworn in. So everybody's going to get a fair shake. Everybody's going to have the opportunity to be able to go through this process, and we'll let the process work out.
Let's dig into some of the picks. His pick for Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She has a long history of questioning American intelligence. She repeatedly promoted
like those 51 idiots.
Russian propaganda. She blamed
like what? Like the Nord Stream pipeline that the Western allies blew up?
The Ukraine war on the Biden administration and NATO rather than Putin. She wants the government to drop all charges against Edward Snowden.
Good. He blew the whistle on illegalities from our own government.
Russian, Iranian, Syrian, Chinese sympathizer. You're a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Will you support her?
Is she just reading CIA talking points like literally from the teleprompter? What the hell is that?
To oversee America's intelligence community?
Yeah, like I said before, we're going to go through hearings. We're going to get everything out. We're going to get facts and information and get the entire story. She is somebody who has been very outspoken. She's obviously a past member of the military. She's a veteran herself. She's had the opportunity to be able to travel quite a bit around the world as a member of Congress to be able to interact with folks. And she's not been afraid to be able to speak out and to say, hey, I disagree on some areas. But that's a very different role than saying, what is your philosophy and what is President Trump's philosophy of how we're going to handle national intelligence? We have very important people that serve in our intelligence community. Literally every day our nation is at risk, and people around the world that most folks will never meet and will never get a chance to know are serving our nation. When you see a member of the military, many people will pay for their lunch or get a chance to say thank you to them. The members of our intelligence community, most folks don't ever know, don't get a chance to say thank you. But it's really important that we have leadership there that's able to support them and able to get them on focus.
Does anything about her concern you?
Great question. Thank you.
Well, we'll have lots of questions. She met with Bashir Assad. We'll want to know what the purpose was and what the direction for that was. As a member of Congress, we'll want to get a chance to talk about past comments that she's made and get them into full context. So sure, there's comments that are floating out. Can you think
of any bad things about her that you can talk about right now? Just anything. Just come up with anything.
But we want to be able to know the rest of the story.
Okay, let's turn to the Department of Justice. Pam Bondi is Donald Trump's new nominee for Attorney General.
Okay.
She's a longtime ally who defended him in his first impeachment trial.
Which was
helped
rigged.
Promote the 2020 election fraud claims
Also
that he
rigged.
was pushing.
Yeah.
Trump also named his personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, as Deputy Attorney General.
Amazing.
And is reportedly
Criminal defense attorney.
considering firing FBI Director Chris Wray
Let's go!
and using the DOJ to probe the 2020 election.
Good. It should be
As you
probed.
well know, the Justice Department is supposed to be free from political interference.
Yeah,
and
but it
pressure
has Jack Smith and Merrick Garland leading it, and Lisa Monaco. So it's not.
From the White House. Will that no longer be the case during the second Trump term?
I don't think we know that one way or the other. I think President Trump does want people that are loyal to him. He wants to make sure that the people that are around him in the cabinet are at least directionally the right direction. This has been a question, quite frankly, since the Kennedy administration, when President Kennedy put his brother in as Attorney General. So that kind of statement of this has always been neutral or that this is supposed to be that way, it should be. It's America's lawyer. It's not the president's lawyer. But it's also someone that the president wants to know is heading the same direction that they are, because it's very important. When you talk about the attorney general, they're the key component on the prosecution of federal crimes around the country, and every single U.S. attorney around the country works for them and with them. So it is very important that we get this role right and that they're actually focused on diminishing crime in America and make sure we're getting good prosecutions.
Yeah, we don't want political crimes in America either. We don't want political prosecutions of our elected officials at all. And they did that. And they did it illegally, in my opinion. And there's plenty of probable cause to start investigations into them because no one's above the law. That's their rule, okay? No one's above the law, not even corrupt prosecutors, okay? That's only fair. Elections have consequences. It's not retribution, although there is a retributive component. I mean, if you're going to be punished for breaking the law, what do you call that, right? That is called retribution. That's what Trump was on the receiving end when they raided his house. That was retribution. That was not an invitation in for a cup of tea. So who is going to be in charge of a lot of this? We've heard the name Kash Patel floated around. And that might be the case, saying here, there's a new scoop from Axios. Trump likely to tap loyalist Kash Patel. That would be a wild pick for top FBI or DOJ post. And we can see they tell us that he's expected to appoint Kash to a high-profile position. Now, they already told us this before, saying that he was going to be deputy FBI and that the new FBI director would be Mike Rogers. Obviously, that's not happening. Trump came out and put the kibosh on that immediately. But why it matters, Patel would be a deeply controversial pick, especially for FBI. Given the hurdles that he might face winning a Senate confirmation, Trump's considering whether to make him deputy or some other place. A final decision hasn't been made. Trump still could change his mind, including by elevating Patel all the way to FBI director, a move that would send Gates-like shockwaves throughout Washington, which I'm here for. Kash has a lot of allies who think placing him in a top role would be well received by the Trump base, that's for sure, and send a clear message that Trump is serious about major reform to the justice and law enforcement agencies. And I think I saw Kash was saying, we need a 24/7 declassification office, which I'm a huge fan of. Yeah, just declassify everything. What does everything need to be classified for? I mean, there's certain things like, where's the plutonium, okay? But the other, like who shot the president and stuff, like that's kind of an important thing for us to know. So we should know that. What they're saying, they say, President-elect Trump has made brilliant decisions. Remaining decisions will be made by him, said Carolyn Levitt. Now, Trump has signaled he's going to fire Wray, whom he nominated in 2017. Trump has viewed the FBI with deep distrust dating back to 2016 in a probe into his campaign when they spied on his campaign, which later turned into Mueller and dogged his entire first 2 years. Trump sees the FBI and the DOJ as the heart of the deep state, which is perfect. A cabal of bureaucrats that Trump believes sabotaged his first presidency. My friends, this is like music to my ears, okay? It makes us so happy here because it's true. And the fact that they're reporting that this is what Trump believes, it's great news. And is intent on rooting out non-loyalists in his second term. Get out. Patel, who rose to prominence waging war against the Russia investigation as an aide to Devin Nunes, shared those aims. He served on Trump's National Security Council and later as chief of staff to acting SecDef Christopher Miller before publishing his book that Trump praised as a blueprint for purging the government of corruption. He's openly discussed retaliation, saying the FBI has become so thoroughly compromised it will remain a threat to the people unless drastic measures are taken. Yeah. The FBI is responsible for a lot more pain and suffering to actual American citizens than many other entities that we are so afraid of in the world. No part of the FBI's mission is safe with Kash Patel. Let's go, said Andrew McCabe. Oh, this is the best endorsement you've heard. Andrew McCabe said, who's a corrupt ex-FBI goon, says no part of the FBI's mission is safe with Kash Patel in any position of leadership, and certainly not in the deputy director's job. Man, that's like I hope Kash Patel has that like on a bumper sticker, man. It's like, look, I'm the man. Former CIA director Gina Haspel threatened to resign in 2020 after Trump concocted a plan to install Patel as her deputy. She's like, I'm out. Bailey is also a Trump loyalist, but his experience and traditional conservative credentials would likely pave a smoother path. So where did this Bailey situation come in? All right, so we'll see. Mike Rogers, Trump said, not going to happen. Said Trump, in his own words, said, I've never even given a thought to Mike Rogers, and so that is not happening. And so very good news. So a tremendous victory to have the cases ultimately dismissed. Both Trump cases are now gone at the federal level. J6 case dismissed by Judge Chutkan, signed there by Judge Chutkan. Jack Smith, one of the biggest failures in American legal history, and has now lost 2 cases. His Florida case has also been dismissed, and they're not appealing it. They're going to see if they can maybe do something about this after the fact. But after 4 years of Trump in charge, I have a doubt that they're going to bring back a prosecution in the aftermath. But the Democrats are nefarious folks. And so we'll see what Trump says in response to this, my friends, thanks for subscribing on this. We've spent a lot of time on these cases, and they're now coming to a close. But from our perspective, they're not closed. This happens all across America all the time. People get prosecuted by corrupt prosecutors, corrupt cops, corrupt FBI people. Their lives are dragged through hell. In this case, the country was dragged through hell. These were unnecessary criminal prosecutions. It cost Americans billions of dollars in lost gains. Everybody who had to hear about these cases on the lefty side has now had their brains impacted to a negative degree by these. That's the mental damage that was done. The credibility to the DOJ, to our justice system, a system that I revere, justice, not our current legal system, but the law, justice. It's integral to life. It's, like a virtue, a value, right? It's everywhere. What is justice? They perverted it. And now they're going to come back after stealing $50 to $60 million, trying to rig an election and trying to imprison their political opponent. Now they're just going to file a motion to dismiss because Trump was in an unprecedented fashion, which was clearly looking like he was going to win, even when the indictments were there. Looked like he was a favorite to win against Biden. Now they're going to cut and run. No, that's not going to be the end of this story. We're not closing the file on this case. We're going to see what the new Congress does when they come in, and what the new administration does, what the new Department of Justice Attorney General does, maybe what Kash Patel does to get to the bottom of this. Because as we know, the current DOJ and Secret Service and Homeland and CDC and everybody, they delete their records, they delete their text messages, delete their audio recordings. They cover up for themselves. And there has been so much hinting here that prosecutors involved in this case, like Jay Bratt from Florida, were pressuring defense attorneys to turn and flip on Trump, threatening attorneys with not getting judgeship positions and so on. The malfeasance here runs deep. I'm very happy that the cases were dismissed, but I want compensation for the damages that these criminals enacted on our country. They perverted the law, the justice system that we love here, into their own tool of political gain. And we're going to be here to hold them accountable. My friends, thank you for subscribing. It is a tremendous day. Thank you for being here and joining us as we go through these cases. Big victory, but we're not done yet. All right, so now, my friends, you hear what I'm saying? K-Bean? Yeah, I'm talking to Jack Smith, punk. Do you think he's watching this show? Jack Smith, man, he's probably nervous right now. He knows what's happening. He knows there are going to be repercussions, and they're running. All right, so my friends, we're not done yet here. We've got some COVID stuff to talk about. And then we'll do a quick update on this X lawsuit with Elon and Alex Jones, and then we're going to hear from you. Thanks for being here. It's a beautiful Monday. I hope your week is unfolding so nicely. Maybe you're working hard. Maybe you're hardly working. Maybe it's like Thanksgiving vibe out there, but we're glad you're here. All right, so here is another one from Senator Ron Johnson, and this is a fun one. The Senate now digging into pandemic records, saying that what they've gotten from the current Biden administration has been appalling, said that they've demanded records of emails and other materials showing what actually happened, and they haven't gotten it. In fact, they've refused to give them materials they're entitled to. And we know the pandemic is over, but we're not done with it. There should be a full look back and assessment and an analysis on what happened, who got rich, who committed crimes, who exploited the American people, who did it for political reasons, and should there be repercussions for them? We want to look at the records. So does Senator Ron Johnson. And so this is what came out from the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee from the United States Senate. And there's some interesting documents in here, including some redactions that we'll take a look at. But here's what he wrote. To the Honorable Xavier Becerra, Health and Human Services, not for long. Oh man, think about how this is going to look now. Democrats are going to send their stupid letters, but just let's indulge for a second. How does this feel? The Honorable RFK Jr. Oh yeah, that looks better, doesn't it? Right there, even in red. The Honorable RFK Jr., Secretary, Health and Human Services. Oh, much better. All right, but not yet. Not until January. Now, the Honorable Robert Califf, FDA, and Dr. Mandy Cohen, Director of the CDC. So the Senate is saying, listen, all right, you punks, the lack of transparency from your agencies during the Biden presidency has been appalling. Your agency's refusal to provide complete and unredacted responses and documents to my numerous oversight letters on the development and the safety of the jabs has hindered Congress's oversight and jeopardized our public's health. So in addition to hiding relevant information from Congress, your agencies have applied heavy redactions to public documents that were released under FOIA request. These redactions have made many of these public documents hard to understand and impossible to even read. Now, what is clear from these excessive redactions, however, is a concerted effort to obscure Congress's and the public's understanding of how these adverse events, such as those things, impact you. The following three examples highlight only a small fraction of communications and documents on these two conditions that your agencies continue to conceal. Now, heavily redacted reports on these conditions have been released, saying FOIA documents and public reporting indicate that in early 2021, the CDC received reports about situations where people were not doing well. By May 2021, heavily redacted documents revealed that then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky, remember her, got data from Pfizer regarding cases of heart problems, as well as an attachment of a document. She got a document. It says Appendix 3.7, Safety Evaluation of Mayo and Perry. The 14-page attachment is completely redacted, except for the cover page, which says that this report was prepared by biotech Pfizer. Isn't that fun? Partial email. So it says from redacted, sent to CDC director. The attachment has the Israeli data included. Okay, the attachment has the Israeli data included. It has all been sent to your team. Appendix 3.7, safety evaluation of those two conditions. Sent from my iPhone. Hey, Larry, this is the data for the thing. The cutoff date is today. Redacted, redacted, redacted. This is the number of events reported to the company as of today is blank. Blank are those types of cases. Redacted, redacted, redacted. Here's the number of cases received. January 21, February 21, March 21. Number of cases received. Did they tell anybody about it? I don't know. Here's the cover page. All right, so you see it's prepared for those two conditions. Says, now, as a result of the redactions, it's unclear. What did Rochelle Walensky know? What did she know about those conditions associated with the jab? Now, shortly after she got the data on those two conditions, Walensky and other CDC officials contemplated, should we issue a warning to people about risks? In May, CDC officials had drafted a health alert network message called a HAN network message that would have warned the public about that. According to the CDC website, HAN is the CDC's primary method of sharing information about these things. It's like, wow, is this a danger? A partially redacted document shows that on May 23rd, then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky received a draft of the HAN message on that condition. The draft HAN cited in the FOIA document was not produced. Okay, so they're thinking, man, this data looks pretty bad. Like you can see the format here. They get this. Oh, crap. Israeli data's in here too? Oh, man. So this doesn't look good. So maybe we should tell everybody about it so they know. Yeah, let's draft up a draft. Okay, great. So they've done that. Here's the draft on the condition advisory, 5/23/2021. She gets the draft warning. She says, great, sounds good. Thank you. Spent a lot of time on reviewing that. Spent a lot of time. Perfect. We'll push it through. I think health advisory is redacted and redacted. Thank you. Will it be a full HAN? Will it be like a full alert or not? I'm fine with how this reads. I'm grateful. Yeah, this is the latest Han. This is the latest alert. So then in May 25th, 2021, an email, a CDC official wrote to a redacted individual, reportedly a Pfizer or Moderna employee, and shared that there are ongoing discussion about the pros and cons of issuing a Han and that people don't want to appear alarmist. Oh no. So they have a draft. They're about to alert everybody about this. And then somebody from Pfizer called. Here's the letter. Regarding publication, this one came from YX04 at cdc.gov. From Sarah Elizabeth Oliver, Tuesday, May 25th. Sarah says, to so-and-so, so-and-so. I haven't heard plans from an MMWR yet. There's just not enough data yet, so an MMWR wouldn't make sense at this point. I would anticipate as we have additional data, more formal analysis, there may be an MMWR, but not right now. The pros and cons of an official Han are what the main discussions are right now. I think it's likely to be a Han, since it is the CDC's primary method of communications to clinicians and public health departments, but people don't want to appear alarmist either. Now, I'm not trying to be vague on purpose. I really don't know. If I had to guess, I would think it's likely to be a Han, but I can't say for sure yet. I anticipate there will be firm decisions within the next 24 hours, so I'll let you know. Okay, so this guy's like, what are you doing? What are you releasing? Is it an MMWR? Is it a Han? Like, how many people are going to get notifications of this? It's like booster season, man. CDC never issued the Han alert. Oh, no. They didn't issue it. According to public reports, that decision may have been influenced by the FDA. Instead, on May 20th, Rochelle Walensky just said, yeah, I'm fine with it. Go. Is this it? Okay, go with it. It sounds like she's like on a beach or something, or maybe she's like on lockdown. Anyways, says, as this continues, instead, on May 28th, CDC published clinical considerations on its website. Can you just post it on your website rather than sending it to the instant messenger of every doctor in America? Can you just post it on your website that nobody will ever see? Or should you tell people about it? Saying that there was an increase in cases of those conditions have been reported after, but the CDC still continues to recommend it for everybody 12 and over. Okay, so follow your local CDC guidance. And of course, we're being careful here because our YouTube censors get all agitated when we say the words in this document. Saying starting in January 2024, though, following public reporting on the CDC's draft Han alert, my office, says Senator Ron Johnson, requested the CDC provide all versions of the draft alert, all communications with the decision not to issue the Han, and instead publish the clinical data and briefings on their website. Now, to date, the CDC has refused to cooperate with any of these requests. Why would they refuse to cooperate? Surely these are legitimate decisions. No, we didn't publish it because here's what we found. It's all documented. Here are the records. This is why. Why won't they show us those? What is in there that could possibly be a reason to not give us those documents? I think we know. So the White House talking points to Rochelle Walensky, Anthony Fauci, and Francis Collins is the following. It says, in late May 2021, as CDC officials reviewed Pfizer data on post-jab cases of those two conditions, and as CDC and FDA officials hesitated to issue a public alert about the risks, the Biden White House sent the U.S.'s top public health officials 17 pages of talking points for tough Q&A on COVID. So don't the people have a right to know? If the CDC was concerned enough that they drafted that response, doesn't that mean we should probably know that? But instead, they wanted to propagandize even more. On May 25th, Benjamin Wakana, the White House Deputy Director for Strategic Comms, emailed Rochelle Walensky, CDC, then National and NIAID Fauci. So Walensky, Fauci, and Francis Collins, they all get a document. Here's what it looks like. New topics include the new topics list. It's a 17-page memo from the White House COVID response team. Hi, please attach find the latest tough QA. New topics include this, this, and this. The redactions in this email and the attachment make it impossible to know what tough QA the Biden White House wanted Walensky, Fauci, and Collins to have on hand. Ultimately, despite your agency's awareness of the risks associated with the jabs, the main talking point from these and other officials was uniform and entirely deceptive. They said the thing, and we have questions about it. Now, for the last several years, Ron Johnson says, I've sent over 60 public letters to federal agencies on the jab regarding the origins, early treatment, the development, and the safety of the things. While your agencies have largely ignored or failed to fully cooperate with my oversight efforts, I can assure you that your obstruction will soon come to an end. You better believe it. Let's go, Senator. In the next Congress, when I become the chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, any attempt by your agencies to withhold documents will be met with a subpoena. So get ready for it. And honestly, where are the Democrats on this? Like, don't the Democrats not want to drop dead from bad pharmaceuticals? Like, isn't that what they want? Like, don't we all want to know when there are bad things out there? Republican or Democrat or not? Why would the Democrats in the Senate not be furious that they're not giving these documents over? Didn't their families do the thing? Did their kids do the thing? Do they want repercussions for that? Or are they just going to say, well, Big Pharma has us so bought off that we don't care? So only the Republicans care? What a joke is this? Until then, my oversight work must continue, and once again, call on you to provide full and complete responses. I want an unredacted version of Enclosure 1. I want all versions of the draft Han and communications referring or relating to the drafting of the Han, the drafting of the clinical considerations on the thing, and decision not to release the Han, and an unredacted version as well. And I want an unredacted version of Enclosure 3. I also call on your agencies to immediately preserve all records referring or relating to the development of the jabs. Please provide the requested information no later than December 3rd of this year. And records means everything that you've ever touched or thought about. Signed, Ron Johnson, ranking member. So here are some of the things he's asking about, right? I want an unredacted version of this. This is the data for this thing. Cutoff date is today. What is, it must not be good. Number of adverse events is this. As of today is blank. Blank are other types of cases, right? That is what prompted in all of the different countries. That is what prompted them to start to prepare a warning. And look at this. Redacted. This is all redacted. Page 430, redacted. Whole thing. 431, redacted. Look at this. Just keeps going. And on and on and on. Why is any person in America okay with this? Democrats included. Same, he wants this. Perfect, we'll push it through. I think health advisory so-and-so is good. Will it be a full Han? I'm fine with how this reads. I'm grateful. So she saw the data, and even she's like, yeah, it sounds great. Then someone else came in. More redactions, more redactions. And same thing here. Hey, thanks. Apologies. There hasn't been more solid communication. Unfortunately, I still don't have a firm update. Things have been changing rapidly here. As we know more, I'll share. Hey, Sarah. Here's this guy. From this guy. Says, hey, Sarah, I'm just checking in to see if you've decided, is it going to be an MMWR somewhere else? If you have any update on timing, let me know. We hope to send the CDC the report we're submitting to PRAC some other time. Many thanks. That must be a pharma bro. Draft is attached. This is still in clearance. Sharing it as a preview. More redactions. Then we get Enclosure 3. This is the Q&A. New topics include what? This bad thing, this bad thing, this bad thing, this bad thing. Everybody's talking about these bad things. You're going to address it? Yeah. All the conspiracy theories. And again, more pages just redacted. Look, page 35, B5 redactions. Whole thing. This is our transparent government. What is so complicated about showing us the data on public health measures? Are we going to be too educated about the good job that they're doing? They don't want us to know the truth about how efficient they are or something? It's a joke. And we're happy that Ron Johnson is not playing around. In fact, Ron Johnson was on with Nicole Shanahan. She has a podcast called Back to the People Podcast. Sounds like a good one. And here's what Ron Johnson said when he was talking with her.
So in order to make that a reality, I think you have to address three very fundamental problems. And I think the first fundamental problem is what President Eisenhower warned us about in his farewell address. It wasn't just about the military-industrial complex. He warned us about public funding of basic science and research and how that would corrupt basic science, and it has.
And it's everywhere, right? You can just think about what the government has done to many different institutions. Think about war, for example. Think about education. Think about the economy. Why wouldn't it also be health and wellness?
And so when you take a look at, for example, Wiley academic publications, having to shut down 19 academic journals, retract more than 11,000 compromised studies. When we have the head of the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, I think her name is Marsha Angel, quit in 2020 and then start writing articles about the fact that, and I actually have the quote here. Let me taste similar. This is a quote from Marsha Angel. Similar conflicts of interest and biases exist in virtually every field of medicine, particularly those that rely heavily on drugs or devices. It is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines.
It's about as good as a Harvard thesis.
I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I reached slowly and reluctantly over my 2 decades as an editor of the New England Journal of Medicine. Again, now, she resigned in 2020, I think, because of this, or in the year 2000. That's 24 years ago. We are seeing in, I think, Nature magazine in May of 2016, they published an article, a study that said 70% of studies could not be reproduced. So
it's just made up.
We've seen the corruption of medical research.
Trust
That's
the
real
science.
problem.
Yeah.
I'd say another fundamental problem is pharmaceutical advertising. Again, I'm a private sector guy. I believe in free speech, but when I've seen what that did to corrupt the process. Again, you look at any pharmaceutical advertisement, there's no way you take that drug based on all the side effects they start labeling, and they don't tell them all. Okay, so the only reason they advertise is to be able to capture the narrative like they captured it during COVID. I mean, that's a real problem. And that's a fundamental problem that has to be addressed. Those, and then I think that the third fundamental is the fact that vaccines, have no liability whatsoever. They're completely protected from any kind of liability, which is why drug companies just love vaccines and why the number of vaccines we give children, are over 80 doses now versus the 3 doses that Bobby and I got when we were young. So again, to me, those are 3 fundamental problems. The powers that be are going to be, they're going to be dragged kicking and screaming to reforming that. I think that's the real threat that Bobby poses those companies is that they like the protection they have. They like the situation they're in.
They
like
make
the
billions.
fact that they're the ones that pay for the science that drives whether or not their drugs get used or their pesticides get used or their products get used. They don't want an independent look at that.
Yeah, Ron Johnson has been a real hero on this issue, and I'm glad to see that he is keeping the pressure on these folks because they'll be in charge soon, and if they do not comply, those subpoenas should fly. I like that. If they do not comply, subpoenas should fly. All right. Now, my friends, we've got one final update on the day, and then we're going to hear from you and see what you say about this. And I'm very excited about that. But here's an update on the Elon x Alex Jones situation. And this was another interesting one. Alex Jones fights for survival, and Elon Musk is coming in to support him, filing a new motion objecting to the sale or the transfer of any X accounts that they're trying to take away from Alex Jones. And so we've got these two Goliaths now joining forces. And here is what Elon and his team submitted in the Southern District of Texas. You see, it's a 62-pager. We'll hit the highlights on it. But X is objecting. So as we know the backstory here, Alex Jones, InfoWars, has had a court say he doesn't have any assets anymore and is now taking them away. But one of the things that they want is his X accounts. And Elon is saying, they're not your X accounts. You cannot have them. They're X's X accounts. And so back off. Now, here is the background on this. They say accounts on X are governed by terms of service, and we object to these accounts going bye-bye. InfoWars, they want to take. Band.video, they want to take War Room Show, and they want to take Real Alex Jones. And so Elon says, no, you can't have them. Sorry. Saying, we don't oppose the general bankruptcy or any of those other things as a general matter, but you can't have the X accounts. Say X accounts are governed by XTOS, terms of service, and they're ours. And so what we do is we give the people who use them only an exclusive license to use it, but he doesn't own that. And so it's not getting transferred away. And I love this. I think that this could be a real interesting tactic. Now, like YouTube is not going to do this. YouTube will just hand control of the account over to whoever whoever purchases it. But YouTube could theorize. It's not their account. I'm not giving you the keys to their account. It's our account. And in contrast to the services, the account holders own the content. They submit, post, or display on their services, but the content is distinct from the services. So you can have the content, but you're not getting the account. Pursuant to a successful bidder notice, the Jones IP sale motion, they say the trustee now seeks to contravene our TOS by improperly selling or transferring the X accounts. And this is great, man. Elon is coming to play. He's like, what can we do to help? His lawyers are like, well, let's make sure we keep the accounts, which neither Jones nor his bankruptcy estate own, to a third party. While X takes no position as to the sale of any of the content posted on the X accounts, X is the sole owner of the services being sold as part of the sale of Alex Jones. You can't do that. While X has granted account holders like Jones and FSS a license to use, like Free Speech Services, which is Jones's company, a license to use the services, such license is non-assignable, both under the terms of the TOS and applicable non-bankruptcy law. So the trustee, you don't get Jones's accounts. X is compelled to file this objection to make clear that X does not consent to the sale or transfer of any X accounts, which means the X accounts cannot be sold or transferred at this time. So don't even think about it. You are not permitted to undermine X Corp's rightful ownership of the property it licensed. Now, for the reasons described herein, X Corp respectfully submits that the X accounts may not be sold, assigned, or otherwise transferred at all, including the ones personally owned by Jones, including Jones's X account. So Jones can keep his accounts, basically. Now, on September 25th, the court entered, or maybe X keeps the accounts, or the Jones can keep the account. Let's see. On October 15, the trustee filed the sale. They sought to sell Jones's X account. They can't do that. The successful bidder negotiated a purchase. On November 18th, this happened. Prior to the filing of this objection, X, through counsel, reached out to seek a consensual resolution of this. But the trustees' counsel, unfortunately, while the trustees' counsel has been working cooperatively with us, they were not able to give assurances that would have avoided us having to file this. And so we are. Now, whether this is property or not is obviously subject to a lot of analysis, but they say X owns the accounts. The accounts are part and parcel of X Corp. Courts assessing ownership have generally referred to a user's right to access the account as the property at issue. Put simply, though, accounts are part of X Corp's services and their use, and they use the services. Indeed, X accounts have no value or use absent services. In addition, you can't post, react, or follow others without a license. You have to be allowed on the platform. Now, because the X accounts are governed by the terms of service, those apply, and they grant a non-assignable and non-exclusive license. So they're not the trustees to give. And you can see it's a monster filing. The use of the accounts is not relevant here, and they go through a bunch of different factors. But they're saying you can't get rid of Alex Jones's account. And so in conclusion, based on the foregoing, X respectfully requests that the motion be denied with respect to the sale of the X accounts. And so maybe real Alex Jones can stick around. We'll see. Latham and Watkins, big firm, Caroline Reckler and Christopher Harris jumping in on it. And they've got exhibits, the X account, terms of service, how this all works, your license to use the service. They just attached all of the TOS. There it is. So it's a fun tactic. Like, you would never see YouTube do this on behalf of Alex Jones. You would never see any other platform do this on behalf of anybody. But Elon is jumping in. You're not taking away Alex Jones's accounts, not without a fight. So shout out to Elon Musk, man, the man doing more for free speech than arguably anybody in modern history. We're here for it. Shout out to Elon. Shout out to Alex Jones. Hopefully Alex Jones gets to keep his accounts. The judge sees that that can't be transferred, and he's back on X in no time. All right, my friends. And so that was a fun one and a very interesting one to take a look at. But all right, now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And I can't wait to see what you say about all this and more. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about at the start of the show. And it was a big one. The January 6th case now dismissed from Judge Chutkan's courtroom in Washington, D.C. A big victory on the day, but also a very sobering day, because we realize that right now these people are trying to escape culpability for this. And that's not going to happen. So good news, legally speaking, but we're not done on this yet. We also saw that in Florida, Jack Smith is moving to dismiss his appeal. He's withdrawing that, so he's not moving forward on that. Tons of changes happening in the DOJ. We're asking about Todd, Blanche, and others and how things are going to be governed there, and asking about confirmation hearings. And of course, a big story is that Kash Patel might be going over to the FBI, which would be a lot of fun. Then we read through this pandemic update. Senator Ron Johnson threatening to subpoena the agencies and maybe even the pharmaceutical companies to get records that are currently redacted into oblivion, as you can see. And so we talked about all of that. And then lastly, a quick update on the Alex Jones situation, Elon Musk jumping into the fight. And so a ton of fun today. It's a beautiful Monday, my friends. It's a beautiful Thanksgiving week. I hope you have some fun stuff planned with your friends, your family, and you've got a plan for pies. Which pies, how many pies, order of consumption, order of operations of the pies, and all the things. We're here in Prescott. It's our final day here. We're heading back early tomorrow, so the afternoon show will be back in the home base. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And as always, I want to thank our amazing mods who have been modding and clipping away for us. Since we're out of town, I always have to configure these things a little bit differently to say hello to everybody. But I think I might have figured that out right now. So let's try it. All right, my friends, thank you for these amazing donos. And I want to thank our amazing mods who are clipping for us over on the Telegram. Man, we got some great stuff here today. You guys rock. Thank you for these. And hey, Drew is here. Cool. All right, so, and I want to thank K Bean and Donut for clipping for us today. Man, you guys rock. All right, so how are we going to share this? Let's do it this way. All right, my friends, here we are. You're going to see a little bit of mirror face. Mirrors in the background, probably up in here. Maybe not, because it's way behind. Hey, what's going on? We got some great donos in the house. Hey, Object Class Keeter says Trump can charge Smith with the same charges. Oh, you know what I can do on these? I can do this way. So it's a little bit less busy. Object Class Keeter says Trump can charge Smith with the same charges he charged Trump. Yeah, exactly. Impersonating a government officer, falsifying charges. I don't think Trump was charged with either of those. It was obstruction of a government proceeding, conspiracy to obstruct a government proceeding. Were really the big ones on the J6 case, and then classified documents. But yeah, obstructing of a government proceeding. Jack Smith was trying to obstruct the election. Conspiracy against rights was also something Trump was charged with. Easy. Hit Jack Smith with that. Conspiracy. There was a conspiracy charge. Absolutely. Hit Jack Smith with that. All of that is absolutely right. Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Thank you, Tony Hay Munkets, for bringing in 5 new membos. And welcome aboard, new membo friends. I think Let's see. Do we have any membos? Yes, we do. Tony, hey, thank you, Donut. So Donut's clipping for us, and you can see that right there on the cell phone. Thank you, Donut. Bringing in Jody Vanover. What's up, Ken L? Amanda Mandy Marr. We got Steve-O and SAF Fruit Loop in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Thank you, Tony Hay. Hey, Lionel 400E just became a new YouTube membo. New membos, grab the stream from this morning. We did a stream this morning. The heck we talk about this morning? Amazing things. Thomas Sherwin. What's up, Thomas? Thanks for the sticker, my friend. Thanks for being here and for supporting us on the day. You're amazing. Thomas Sherwin, another one. Gifted a membo. Thomas Sherwin brought in, who's coming in? Daryl B in the house. Daryl B in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of Thomas Sherwin. Thank you, Thomas Sherwin. Arnold Newton, 9 months as a membo. That's a new baby. Happy new baby, Arnold. Thanks for being a membo. Says, happy Thanksgiving to all the Watcher fam. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Arnold. It's going to be a beautiful Thanksgiving. Turkey for days. Hey, what's up? Ray Ronk. Ray, good to see you. 14 months. Still not tired of winning. There's a lot of winning today. Jack Smith is losing. Chutkin is losing. Alvin Bragg's case is on the way out. Fannie Willis has lost. I think after that comes back down on an appeal. It's good to win. It's good. Feels good. Tony Hay Munkets. Thank you, Tony Hay. Bringing in even more membos from Tony Hay. Look who's here. We got Share Bear 79, Masters of Criminology. Ooh. Kazzy B, Angel 59, and Amy D. Gifted membos courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Thank you, Tony Hay. This one came in from Magellan 51. Says the woke and the Dems running and crying just proves that spankings do work. Political spankings, indeed. They have been very upset about that. Thank you for that, Magellan. A lot of temper tantrums happening out there. A lot of discovering themselves. I don't think they're going to learn much. Hey, Cicada Orantia Jedediah. Cicada says, good job, Robert. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Cicada. I appreciate that. We were just talking about cicadas today, actually, because Prescott has a lot of them. Real with Robo says CNN chick is drama llama. Dana Bash. She is. She just wants to instigate. Tell me the things you hate about the person that I hate so we can commiserate about that live on cable news. Great job. Art Pollard says Pam Bondi has a bad Second Amendment record. We want Alina Abba in the house. Yeah. Yeah, she declined, I think, that role, or she declined the press secretary role. Art, I don't know much about Pam's 2A amendment, Second Amendment stuff. I think it was like red flag laws and stuff, but I haven't looked into it too deeply. We'll have to have Alina just as the spokeswoman, I suppose. This one came in from Elena, a.k.a. Nelly, says, YouTube makes you have to substitute words still? I don't know. I don't know if they do or not, but we do just to be cautious about it because we've been bit on that a lot. I think we got 2 medical misinfo strikes for saying things that were true. So one of them we appealed, one of them we ate, lost, but yeah, we just try to tap dance around it. Hey, Eclectic Rose. What's up, Eclectic Rose? Thanks for becoming a membo on the YouTubes. Grab the stream from this morning. We had fun. And Elena, a.k.a. Neely, in the house, became a new membo. Great to see you, Neely. Thanks for becoming a membo. Grab the stream from this morning. Eddie Van Zant says Alex Jones, Texas, Elon Musk, X, Texas, Eddie, Texas, can't count votes, Maricopa County, Arizona. See a pattern? I see. Alex Jones, Texas, Elon Musk, X, Texas, Texas, can't count votes. Maricopa count votes, Maricopa, Arizona. See a pattern? Where do you live, Rob? Arizona. But we're going to make Arizona great again as soon as we throw Katie Hobbs, Chris Mays, and Stephen Richards already gone. Who else? Adrian Fontes. We're going to throw them on their booties. America's going to be much better. Arizona's going to be much better. Hey, Esther, what's up, Esther? Says doctors wouldn't have pushed the thing if they had known that data. I'm sure some of them wouldn't have, yeah. If they would have sent out a Han and it rose to that level, they'd say, oh, this is probably a real concern, rather than them just posting it on the CNN, on the CDC website. One has an aura of seriousness to it. The other does not. Hey, Vanessa. What's up, Vanessa? Says, the X lawsuit prevents name squatters. Yeah, I love that Elon's fighting for that. It's great. You can't just come in and take somebody's accounts over. Jennifer, no rhubarb pie. It's a great reminder, Jennifer. If you're going pie crazy for this Thanksgiving, remember, rhubarb is poisonous. And that's a fact, right? Pretty sure. So I don't know about rhubarb pie, if that's poisonous or not, but if rhubarb is poisonous, can't one deduce and infer that the rhubarb pie would be poisonous? Like if blueberries were poisonous, I wouldn't be eating a blueberry pie. If pumpkins were poisonous, I would not have a pumpkin pie. So why do people eat rhubarb pie when it is poisonous and it might kill you? That's what we need to know. Be safe out there this Thanksgiving. It's a public service announcement. All right, we got some donos. What is this? From AOC's mind map. Okay, so we're going over to locals. And local says, hey, Rob, your new crib looks big enough for two. It is, yeah. So I'm not alone in here. That's true. I'm not alone. Says, I'm looking forward to the day that she photobombs a podcast. Oh, Alexis, she's done that. She did that. Well, it's not a photobomb, but she's happily invited on. But she came on during the debate with Biden. I think we had Stephen Gardner on there too. It was a ton of fun. This nosy fan wants a peek at Mrs. Rob G. Well, we're not quite there yet, but certainly in the realm, She's amazing. She's great. And you'll be seeing a lot more of her, no doubt. Spud says, even Commander Data is more of a real boy than Jack is. That's true. Jack is not a real boy. And Data at least had, some funny jokes and a personality. Prosecutors don't have any personalities at all. I'd much rather spend a lifetime traveling the stars with Data than Jack Smith. You know what I'm saying? Alice Elizabeth says, the last podcast you talked about mixed marriages. Oh, about the politics. Yeah, mixed marriages about like Democrats and Republicans. I was like, we did? When? My husband was going door to door for Kamala. He hasn't been willing to talk about it yet, but now, thanks to you, we'll have times set aside to hear his conspiracy theories. That's great. Oh, that's great. All right, we read a great article this morning, Alice Elizabeth, about relationships and what happens if you're in a relationship and your partner has an epiphany and becomes less, Democrat. What happens? And that's funny. It was a funny story. Check it out from this morning if you want to watch that one. This old guy says, if Trump accomplishes what I hope he has set out to do, there will be no one left in the DOJ to file any of that lawfare case when he leaves office. Yeah, that's another good point there, this old guy. Trump does such a good job. J.D. Vance comes in for the next 4 years. Then the statute of limitations expire on all the things. John McGarvey shared this one from Matthew Colangelo. Says, reward for information leading to the arrest and the conviction of this criminal. That's Matthew Colangelo. He's going to be on that short list, too, of people who were involved in a RICO conspiracy to prosecute Trump. Knox is here. Happy Monday, all. Why would you want disloyal people in your administration? Would you hire staff that was not loyal to your firm? So dumb. Yeah, it's really a stupid question. It's like, hey, Dana, do you have disloyal staff in your office? Like, is your assistant disloyal to you? Do you want people who are disloyal at CNN doing your briefing? Do you want the teleprompter guy to be disloyal to you and make it so you read the truth? No, you don't want any of that. Glocky says, our intelligence is broken. When I was a scout in Iraq, we started noticing a lot of young military-age males that showed up and would stare us down, weren't scared to throw down with us. We reported this in our intel reports. We were told no basic terms, and we were full of it because DC wasn't seeing it. And then we got the infamous uprisings in southern Iraq and Fallujah. A lot of good people died needlessly because of our loser intelligence not believing us. Rub some dirt on it. Says, sabotaged his first presidency. I feel a huge, big, beautiful spotlight on its way for the close of tonight's show. Yeah, it feels like a good night for that. Although this chair does not move at all. So it's going to be a vertical spotlight. Tex Rick says, Rob, I've learned so much. I've learned much on the legal fronts this past year and half hanging here with our friends. Thank you for the time dedicated to these legal affairs, which I enjoyed a bunch. Tex Rick. Hey, that's such a nice thing to say. Me too. I got to tell you, we learn a ton together. We're going through these things together. It's in real time and it's very eye-opening to say the least. Thank you, Tex Rick, for supporting us, being able to, do this work together is really enjoyable. I'm really grateful and honored to be able to spend the time with you. Thank you, Tex Rick. Pam Raglan says Congress needs to look into Francis Collins. He was Fauci's boss. He has a Christian consulting co called Big Logos, was going to churches telling them that this was all a gift from God. Interesting. I believe since he's profited, that's Rico. Then I traced him to EcoHealth Alliance. His alma mater is UNC Chapel Hill. Says my neighbor got into difficulties. Says I knew about Israel. I told his family to report it. CVS would not give him a card. So there's a bunch of stuff going on there, Pam. Thanks for that. Woodchip says raspberry and maybe an apple pies in the future. Check with me on Wednesday, says Woodchip Bill. Hey, those are good. Those are good pies. Milo Phone Bill says the View hosts were forced to read 4 more legal notes from their lawyers. Shaking my head. I saw, I think, 2 of them. We may have played 2 of them. There were 2 more. Well, they should, I guess, they should just do the show with legal notes moving forward. Hey, Knox is here. I just got my Justice for Peanut and Fred t-shirt from Freedom Farms. They gave me a free watermelon lip gloss. Peanuts Freedom Farm. Justice for Peanut and Fred. That's awesome, Knox. That sounds like a good one. Check it out at peanutsfreedomfarm.com. Tex Rick says, Rob, new AG coming your way. That will be you, brother R. New AG. You think like I'll be the new AG or something? I don't know about that. I think there's other much more qualified folks. BH, but thank you for the endorsement. BH Williams says, the dose makes the poison. BH Williams, that's an ominous one. MAGA Hat Stays shared this one. The beautiful Melania. She's out there looking very beautiful as always. Regal. It's Christmas season. It'll be nice when she's back in the White House. This morning on Locals, we were talking about, they were doing the Christmas tree and pardoning the turkey. Joe Biden was out there mumbling and bumbling all over himself. I'm just like, ugh. It will be nice to actually be able to enjoy Christmas at the White House again. So, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Let's say hello to our friends on X. Thank you, everybody, for your amazing donos and for supporting us and for joining us while we're here on the road. We got MBR just became a new member. Amazing, MBR. Check out the stream from this morning. It was fun. It was kind of a funny one, too. Hey, this one from Stephanie Womack. 33 months as a member? How many babies is that, man? I'll have to get a calculator for that one. I don't know. Hearts to the watchers. God bless. Thank you, Stephanie Womack, for being here and supporting us for all these years. That's a long time. We've seen some serious stuff. When you've been here for like 33 years, it's like 33 months. It's like we're coming full circle. It's like we went through the pandemic together, and now we're seeing Ron Johnson demand repercussions and investigations into the pandemic. It's all coming full circle. Isn't it fun? It's fun. And Trump won. Libby T, thank you. 5 new membos coming in. We're grateful for you, Libby T. Thank you for sending those in. Here's one. Christina Butler's coming in. Kim Allen. Patriot Pants, John Hendry, and Justin Schrank in the house because we're saying thank you to Libby. And the GIF is not loading on my phone right now, but amazing. Donut, thank you for clipping for us today. Ladybug became a YouTube member. We'll see you on the members only morning stream. New membos and membos. We are not likely to have a morning stream tomorrow. We have to get up and get out of here early, and we might try to see one additional house on the way out. So we'll miss you at our regular scheduled time, but we'll be back for the regular stream. But new membos, grab the stream from this morning because it was a good one. We had this one from Gopher Big Guy. If Trump picked you as Arizona U.S. attorney, would you serve? I mean, yeah, I would. I don't really want to go be a U.S. attorney, like go be like a prosecutor, but I'd do it. I'd be like, but if you're called to serve, you're called to serve. In truth, I think there's other more qualified people who'd probably be better at it than me. But yeah, I mean, if the president comes to you and says, hey, man, we need you to do this job, I'm like, all right, I'm in. Put me in, coach. Put me in. But I detest the idea of, I really don't like the Department of Justice or anything related to it at all. So it'd be like kind of gross, but you have to do it. You have to. All right. Especially if El Presidente calls you. All right. Yes, sir. I'm in. Me, Mr. President. Yes, sir. I'd love to. All right. So my friends, thank you for joining us. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we wrap it up. We're going to go hang out on Locals for a little bit. And man, this screen is really orange, isn't it? Didn't realize how orange it was. Fred Pedamonte says, although I believe Trump would have won because Biden-Harris has done so incredibly bad everywhere, I think every indictment put him over the edge, especially with black males who understand legal BS. I think that might be true, Fred. Francis White says, Jack Smith is not admitted to the D.C. Circuit Court, so he couldn't sign the motion to dismiss. But didn't he? Well, I think his initial order. Here, let me just share this comment. I think the initial order gave him jurisdiction all over the country. But I would agree Jack Smith is illegitimate, and so he has no real basis for bringing anything anywhere. Thank you, Francis White, for that comment. Hey, what's up, Rusty Patina? Oh, this is so great. All right, ready? Here it is. Jack Smith, as we know, lost both cases. And Donald Trump wanted to memorialize his victory. And so this is what happened. Oh! Jack Smith, you're welcome. Defeated. Marked by Donald Trump. It's like the game ball. It's like the game ball. You want to hand the game ball to the kids. He took Jack Smith and gave him to a kid. He said, here you go. Here you go, kid. Go do something with your life. That's fun. Thank you for that one. That's fun. All right, we had another one. Rick Hacker says, I do solemnly swear Trump considers this oath to be sacred. Yeah, that's right. Trump considers the oath to be sacred. Oh my gosh, we have a new baby here. Wow. All right, so here's a new baby. Here's a new baby photo in the house. Mary's posting, North Star is here on YouTube announcing the arrival of my 9th grandkid 3 weeks early on 11/22, 7 pounds, 15.3 ounces. Welcome aboard, little baby. Welcome to the world. It's going to be great. Got a full life ahead of you. Congrats, Mary, on another grandbaby. 9 of them, man. Good for you. Building a family. Love it. Thanks for sharing that. TJ King says, had he dismissed with prejudice, the left would have argued any investigation into Jack not a real boy would be called revenge. But Bondi can argue, well, it's a sword of Damocles hanging over his head in all future presidents. That's a great point, TJ. So Trump can say, well, it's not final, so we better go get to the bottom of this. And he'll have 4 years, just to be clear. Trump will have 4 years to go in and investigate every single person who worked on that case. So after that case is over, we're going to know whether there was any... He's going to be the Justice Department, right? So if the case still has credibility and legitimacy after that, that's going to be basically a miracle, I think. So it's going to go away. Your camera is responding to the blue light from the windows. There's no auto white balance. I wonder if that setting's off. It looks better. It looks better on this than it does on the screen. But I can't tell. Anyways, we're back home tomorrow. So it was just a temporary setup is why we're here. But yeah, good lighting will be back tomorrow. But thanks for having some dirt on it. I got to maybe figure out the setting, though. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's a setting. So the next time I do this, it doesn't do that. I appreciate it. Hey, Quadcam says, pencils down, government. This one came in over on Locals. Pencils down, government. Let me share this tab. The people have come to check your homework. Knox says, yeah, just one last goofy Biden Christmas. Remember last year, the horror. Although the Easter Bunny events were pretty fun, like when that one Easter Bunny almost gave Joe Biden a heart attack. Spud says, it won't be a spotlight. It will be a photon torpedo. Fire photons. Fire phasers, right? The phasers. Phasers. Photon torpedoes. We're all out of photon torpedoes. What? Hey, North Star. Hey, Knox says, hello, North Star, and congrats to Mary. Amazing. Congrats in the house. Okay, and so my friends, thank you so much for those amazing donos. And for new membos, welcome aboard, new membos. If you're a new YouTube member, grab the Telegram stream. So go to the channel homepage, navigate over to the community tab section, scroll down, you'll find Telegram. That's where the perma chat is. It never ends. It goes on, my friends. And you can join us in the after party because we're going to hang out, take some more locals comments, and look at some more babies over there. Lots of babies. Oh my gosh. These babies, man, it's amazing. Okay, so many cute babies out there. All right, so we're going over to locals. My friends, thank you so much for joining us here on the road. We're back in town tomorrow, and we're going to get into it again. Thank you to the mods, our mods, K Bean, John McGarvey, Donut. You guys are clipping for us, even though we're on the road. Very grateful for you. Thank you for doing that. And my friends, that's going to be it for us on the day. And so we are going to go over to locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We'd love to see you there. But if we don't, we're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Happy Thanksgiving week. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Make it a great night. Bye-bye.